But almost as a rule, if I can predict it before speaking to them, then I don't want to do it.
Right.
Because it's something I know about, or you kind of know a little bit about. If it's something I think I know about, then it's interesting, but it's not as interesting as the thing that I don't know about. It's the bit of kit that's in their locker behind the stage,
Right.
where they go, "Oh, this is what we use this for." Really? Totally didn't expect that.
Yeah.
That's the bit that I'm interested in, rather than.
I was a stage manager once, a show that had tap dancing.
Right,
Okay,
yeah.
so for 10 shows, I had to wax down the stage with cans of Coca-Cola.
See, that's a detail. That's a detail I really like.
Yeah, Coca-Cola. It turns out you have to mop the stage with Coca-Cola, so it's not too. It's slightly sticky.
It's time to land the Barracuda! Everybody do it now! Do what, baby? Come on and do the Barracuda!
What's going on? Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. This is another episode of the Gold Coast vs. Drew Cruck podcast show. If you got this far and you've listened to a few of my shows, thanks for doing that. And what's different for me today is that we're in my new studio in Burleigh Heads on the Gold Coast, of course, and it's a great room. I feel really good in this room. Maybe a bit too much aircon. Can you hear that? But I'm going to, sort that out. Anyway, coming up next, Mattg from Mattg Photography, a really interesting character from London, the south of London, who just recently found him. And the reason I spoke to him is just the coolest thing. Basically, his wife watched me on TV, and she said, "Isn't that the kind of idea that you've got, but you want to put it into photos? You know, like taking photos of the most interesting part of someone's subculture." And he's been thinking about this, telling his wife or girlfriend this idea for years. And they spotted me on the ABC TV show the other week, and even his lady found me. And next week we had an meeting, and here he is today to speak to us. So it's a cool idea. I was actually a bit at the start of this fumbling my words for some reason. I found myself talking to someone from a different part of the world, and it sort of rattled me a little bit. He's a scientist. And I found myself feeling really dumb. I actually felt really stupid all of a sudden. And inside me I'm going, come on, Drew, just come on. So I think we got over it in the end. But yeah, that's the truth. All right, over to you, boys. Geezers and birds, in it. Mattg, welcome to the studio.
Thank you, Drew.
How do you feel?
Not too bad.
Yeah?
Been a busy day, but
Right.
just about settling down with the beer.
Excellent. What's a busy day for you?
6 a.m. surf,
Yeah.
and then couple of hours doing studio work, just hitting the keyboard, and then shooting something in the afternoon, and then podcast in the afternoon. That's a busy day.
Excellent. I'm glad you're here, mate. This is the second episode in my new studio here in Burleigh.
That's great.
Right, so it's pretty exciting for me. Hey, I was feeling a sense of achievement that this little show that started off as me going, oh, I don't even know if I want to do this, or I don't know why I want to do it, has gone quite far in only since February last year.
Yeah, it's been amazing.
Hey, I'm about to have an anniversary. I didn't even think of this. I need to plan some fun.
It's almost February.
Didn't even think of that. So what about you, mate? Where are you from?
Originally London. I was from South East London, and then proper West London for a bit, and then came over to Sydney 8 years ago, and then the Gold Coast 2.5 years ago. Right.
What made you stop here?
At the Gold Coast, we were looking for a bit more space and a house, etc., that kind of thing. I needed a studio space, and my girlfriend had been applying for jobs all over the shop. We'd applied as far as Tasmania and Cairns. We'd gone from one end of the country to the other, and then she was offered a job in the Gold Coast, and we were like, we know nothing about the Gold Coast other than what you see on schoolies
Were you already a surfer?
Yes, yeah,
Ah.
yeah. I used to surf in the UK, and we came over to we came up from Sydney, and it was when 2 years ago when there was the really early bushfires, and so Steph had been offered this job, and we were like, oh Jesus, I don't know, we need to go up there quick, and so we jumped in the car, drove from Sydney to the Gold Coast from about 4 o'clock in the morning, which including driving through a bushfire. Where it was burning on both sides of the road, and we were going, yeah, we're in Australia, this is great, we're enjoying this. And we got to the Gold Coast, and so we'd never really, I'd only been here once for one job, just down to Curly, and I didn't know anything about the south end of the Gold Coast and kind of the Currumbin and Tugun and all the pretty bit. Got here and went, okay, yeah, let's move here.
Yeah, good choice.
Yeah, it was. And then
what a great choice.
no, it was. And then we moved into a brilliant house in Currumbin, and within about a week went, yeah, we should buy a house here.
Cool.
And then yeah,
I'd say you lucked in. You know, there are a lot of people that think surfer's paradise, and they'll buy around there, Labrador and between, Currumbin has turned into this crazy great place lately, you know, with all the stand-up paddleboarding, and it has. I've actually watched it go, oh my God, I never thought this would actually happen. It's exactly how I thought it was. This great part of the beach has turned into a really amazing place due to stand-up paddleboarding. I really think it started.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
The police cracked down on all the bike clubs that were in Currumbin itself, which everyone thought, oh, it's just how it is. It's kind of this funny little industrial sort of thing. Well, it's kind of gone, you know, and there's little cafes and art shops all about now, yeah. Which leads me to, when did you first become a photographer?
It's not the usual story. I came over to Sydney 2007, 8 years ago, and I had a proper job as a scientist, and I was working in the labs, and I was looking down microscopes, and I was playing with computers all day, and I'd got very technically proficient at focusing and blah blah blah, depth of field, all this and the other, and Photoshop and all kinds of things, and I was really unhappy. I was really really unhappy doing science. It's brilliant as a job, but it's a dreadful career. You're constantly chasing money, and you're constantly just trying to get a grant to do your job, and it's just rubbish, and I hated it. And then somewhere along the line, I was like, I started doing. I'd always been into art, but not so much into photography. And I thought, well, I'm technically proficient at the photography already. So I started picking up a camera and started taking lots of shots. Started doing some studio shoots and stuff, and then after a year or two, I thought, I'm good enough to do this, and I started to just do it part time. So this was about 4 or 5 years ago, and I started to do it just every now and then, jobs for friends and stuff, or I'd take a day off work and do a shoot kind of thing. And then one day, via a friend, I got a job with Harley Davidson shooting at the Tattoo Expo, and I spent 2 days shooting girls with tattoos on bikes, and then got paid for it at the end of it. Walked into work on Monday and said, I quit.
Wow.
And then took it
You
up.
just had this feeling that everything about what you did on the weekend was exactly perfect.
Yeah, it was so much better than doing a real job and chasing money and feeling like you were getting nowhere when this was just brilliant. I just had a great time and was getting paid for it, and it was something that was fun. It was something I was good at, and so I just thought, that's it, full time.
Did you have this feeling? I had this feeling in my life where I worked in a factory for a long, long time, thinking that that's work. I was trained to think that is actually work. And then I got an acting agent in Sydney, and I found, for the first time in my life, I went, oh my God, these people are getting paid. Of course you don't have to work like, I actually saw this other side of the world. And that's what I think now when I see someone tells me that they're a stripper, and then they're the people that design the clothes for the stripper, and there's all these industries out there if you really search for what you want.
Oh,
that don't feel like work. Oh my God, I don't have to work, but I'll do so much work on the things I love,
Yeah,
it's a good feeling once that happens.
I've got surfing friends, and we'll go out on a Saturday morning, and I'll say, "Oh, I've got to go in, guys. I've got to go." And they're like, "Oh, but the waves are great. You got to stay out." And I'm like, "Oh, I can't. I've got to work." What do you mean work, Matt? Okay, yes. So I'm shooting a beautiful young lady, not wearing very much, in my studio, which is at my house.
Yeah, Yep, and the
You call
sun's
that
coming
work,
up
Matt?
now, and it'll be glistening off her body.
Yeah,
you know, you got
yeah.
to get that right.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really work. There are days that are hard work. I mean, running a business is hard work. But
but when it's your interest, it's not work.
yeah, and when you're shooting, that's not work at all.
That's a great success story.
That's great fun.
I always thought, I wonder why, I'm always critical that no one came to my school there in Rochdale High School in Brisbane. No one came along and said, "G'day guys, I'm, or did you know that you could be a photographer and you could look at semi-naked women if you could do that well, and here's the amount of pay you could get." You know, no one explained it to me enough at school. Like, hey, there are jobs here that aren't digging holes in mud or standing in a factory for years and years cutting steel.
Well, I was going to school in southeast London, where
What town? What's that?
I was in Bexley Heath.
Bexley. Yep.
So right on the edge of London, right in the suburbs. It's I shouldn't slag it off in public, but
Yep. There's Bexley in Sydney. You know that one?
yeah,
Yeah?
yeah. The one in Sydney's prettier, and it's right in the suburbs. So it's not Bexley Heath isn't quite in the town. It's not in London. It's not kind of where the action is, but it's not quite far enough out to be in the countryside.
Right.
I hated it. I couldn't wait to leave. And so at school they were giving you all you can earn loads in the city, or you can work in the shops. You can work in the shopping centre. Great. And I got to my 18th birthday and left as soon as I could.
Yeah, right.
And then, these days, I walk out in the morning, I look at my pool, and I look at the sunshine, I go for a surf, and I think, you've come a long way from Bexley Heath, Matt.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you really have. You've got a great little house there too, I think.
Yes. When your biggest problem in your life is palm tree fronds falling in your pool on a windy evening, that's not too bad, is it?
Do you have family at home back in South London then?
Yes, my mum's still there.
Has she come here? Has she
She comes
visited?
here every year, actually.
Right.
She came over a few years ago, and it was once in a lifetime. She's 75 this year. I have to pop back for her birthday. Right. And she's a little bit infirm in her hips and stuff, and she doesn't move very fast. And this was a once in a lifetime trip. And then a year later, she came back again.
Yeah.
And a year later, she comes back again. And now it's a regular trip. She's
good.
She's because of her dodgy hip, she comes business class, and so she gets to relax in the bed and stuff.
Nice.
So the flight isn't too bad.
What does she think about it? I always find out, because I'm always going to Japan every year. My wife's Japanese, so let's cut the crap. What's the quirkiness of, what's the weird things about Australians? I know it because when I come back here, we get at the Coolangatta airport, and I just look. It looks like a scene from an Aussie film where everyone's like, "G'day, mate, how are you?" And someone's smoking a ciggy and calling over for a taxi. "Come on, mate, you all right? Yeah. And I'm like, wow, it's so different to Japan. But I can be critical of Japan as well for being too uptight and like upsetting people all the time accidentally. But I'm always interested in because I guess we are very similar. The English, we've come from there. So no doubt a born and bred person from London. What does your mum say? What's the quirks?
She thinks it's brilliant. She loves it. She was really surprised that everyone in the UK thinks that Australia is just a big red desert. You see the pictures of Uluru, and that's what you think the whole of it's like.
And neighbours.
And neighbours. So you think most of it's red, and then there's some kind of suburban
Little
bits down
towns.
south, but that's all you think. And so my mum just loved the flowers and the plants and stuff, and look, the birds all the time. It's like, what's that? Oh, it's a kookaburra, mum. And what's that? Oh, that's a bat. And then what's that? Oh, that's a snake, mum. Move away. And
what happened to all the ones in the UK then? I guess the population, everyone ate everything. Like in Japan, there's
well,
big...
if you when I phone up my mum and I can hear them in the garden, they tweet and they sing, and they're little tweety things that make a nice little summery sound.
Right.
Where everything over here, you got the cockatoo and they just screeching at you. You got the kookaburras laughing at you.
Yeah.
You've got just everything just shouts at you.
Yeah.
And out
when you wake up in the morning in Currumbin, it sounds like a film from an Aussie film.
You're quite lucky if you can wake up in Currumbin in the morning. In our house, because we normally get the 4 a.m. kookaburras, and in the middle of the night, and there's so much wildlife in just kind of there all the time. Most people will kill you, obviously. But my mum thought that was brilliant.
She likes it, yeah.
We do. I saw a kookaburra eating a snake the other day in my garden. I thought that's the most Australian thing I've seen in my house.